Hello, Savvy Scribes. I am so excited today to have Laura on the show. Laura is a freelance writer who launched her business in 2012 without any training and scaled to six figures in 18 months. And within that year, she went freelance full time. She still currently writes for some clients and now is coaching freelancers, kind of like me, but in a huger scale.
Welcome to the Savvy Scribe podcast, a podcast for healthcare professionals who want to build a profitable writing business. I'm Janine Kalbach, your host, and I am a mom to two boys. I'm a wife, a Great Dane lover, a registered nurse, and a content writing business owner. I am committed to help you moving your business forward because I've been there. I get it. I understand that life is busy and distracting, but many of us are burnt out at the bedside, working too many hours, and are ready for a change. Every week, I will deliver actionable advice and thought leaders in the industry to help you move along in your business. Welcome to the show.
So excited to have you on the show today, Laura. Welcome.
Well, I'm so excited to chat with you. And I think it's so cool that you're helping such a specialized group of people really leverage their skills. So I'm just thrilled to be on your show.
And you know what? Let's do a quick shout out to your podcast. I follow Laura's podcast and I have for a while now. Go ahead and tell them the name of it and how they can find it, just so we can throw that in the beginning here.
Yeah. So my podcast is called Advanced Freelancing, and it's all kind of tips for the experienced freelancer who's looking to scale. And you can find that on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Just search it and it'll be available for download there.
And if you guys are obviously listening to this show, just throw on that one too, because we almost have a lot of the same topics that we struggle with as freelancers and growing our businesses and such, that you guys are going to find value in both podcasts. Because if I find value and then I use things on my show, you guys will definitely find value as well. And Laura also has a book too for beginning freelancers called Start Your Own Freelance Writing Business. Mm-hmm. And it's the complete guide from starting and scaling from scratch. Where can people find that book, Laura?
It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. There's an audiobook too, or you can get the ebook version.
Perfect. I think I've read it. Is it in the library too? Like, is it?
It might be.
I think I got it out of the library. I want to say I think I did. You're so cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's the first time someone's told me they found it in a library. So that's awesome.
I do. I think I got it at the library because I didn't buy it, but I was like, I've already done this. So I'm just going to see what's
exactly.
But I want to say, because I saw the cover and I'm like, I think I read this. So congrats on that. So a couple things that Laura is an expert in, you guys. Legal content writing, right? Did you start that route?
I did. And it's interesting because within that, I do a lot of what I would call medical adjacent writing. I write a lot about injuries, accidents, defective products, on like mass tort cases with major drugs that are, the subject of thousands of lawsuits and stuff like that. So
did you ever do any on OB?
I have done some medical malpractice. Yeah. Yep. So I'll have occasional medical malpractice lawyers who say things like, we need to cover common birth injuries and stuff like that. So it's interesting how often I do stuff that is kind of that fusion of like medical and legal stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. And obviously she's an expert in coaching freelancers. On your website, it says over 5,000. I'm sure it's even more than that now. And building teams, right? Building teams for the advanced freelancer.
Yes, I am a huge fan of outsourcing and delegation. And so if you've been in business for a while and you don't have a VA yet, but you have consistent revenue and you feel like you're doing all the things, you need to build a team.
I want to talk to you about that a little more too today. And Laura has done multiple speaking engagements, some TED Talks, keynote speaker stuff. Very cool. Very, very cool. Her website, just so you guys know, and we'll put this all in the show notes, is betterbizacademy.com. Mm-hmm. And she is quoted the freelance coach. I love it. I love it. So starting way at the beginning in 2012, how did your career path start? What did you even do before freelance writing?
Oh, I was a
Oh.
terrible inner city teacher. Okay. I had no training. I went through a program that was a lot like Teach for America. So I had a whopping 6 weeks of training in the summer before teaching seventh grade for the first time in my life in one of the hardest school districts in the country, Baltimore City Public Schools. And, I went in with bright eyes. I'm going to be great at this. I've taught at the college level. Like, I'm good. Day one, I was like, wow, I am not prepared for this job. So I was
Little
not
naive, a little naive.
oh, totally naive. Like, had the biggest goals in the world of like, I'm going to help all these students. And I was like, it was a real eye opener as far as what we ask for teachers. And I feel like a lot of your audience can resonate with that.
Oh yeah.
We ask a lot out of our nurses and people in the healthcare too, way too much. And burnout is a real issue. So I'm
sure you have stories from that. And I could tell you.
So many stories.
New nurses, and I'm guilty. When I was 21, I became a nurse. And even these little new nurses I have that come on board, they're so sweet, so innocent.
Yes.
And then you get one patient and you're like, yep, this is what I never knew existed out there.
Yes, reality. And it makes you have instant respect for the people who've been doing it for 20 and 30 years, right? You're like, how? How did you hang in here this long? Instant, like forever now, like every time I meet a teacher, I'm just like, God bless you, because I can only imagine if you've been doing that for years, what you feel like. So I was terrible at classroom management, discipline. I had 35 students at a time. We didn't even have enough desks, books, pencils, nothing. So the only shred of me being good as a teacher was I made really creative lesson plans. And so that was when I was like, all right, I can't teach anymore. There's no way I'm making 30 years to retirement. So what can I do with some of the skills that I have? I like writing. I'm good at writing my lesson plans. I like coaching my students in writing and reading. So maybe I can run with that. And I literally Googled how to become a freelance writer and started absorbing everything I could, free things, paid things, books. I really wanted to get a sense of how real this was to be able to make money online. And it kind of grew from there. So I left my teaching job. I was working in marketing. I had a day job in marketing and was building my freelance writing business on the side from there.
Very good. What's your background in degrees?
So I have a bachelor's degree in economics and political science, a master's degree in political science, and I've done everything except my dissertation for a PhD in public policy. So that's why leaving teaching was so hard, because I was on track to work in academia. I really thought I was going to be a professor. Baltimore killed my desire to teach. So I'm like, oh no, what do I do now? Like, I have these degrees that I don't really want to work in politics or something like that. So what am I going to do with it? And to make matters more complicated, I had just met my boyfriend, who is now my husband. He was in the military. So I knew we were going to be moving. So me searching for a new career was also about what can I do remotely with flexibility, because we're going to move a lot and I have to follow him around as a physician in the military. So what does that look like? And so it's kind of like the perfect storm for me to try to find something new.
Very good. So then you Googled like a lot of us did or do.
Yes.
And you stumbled upon, freelance writing. You can make money as a writer. What started your journey?
Well, I started looking for clients and, to be honest with you, I had no idea what I was doing. And I looked at the different types of writing, and I'm like, honestly, the first thing that I found was magazine writing. And this was like 2012. And I was like, media seems to be having a real struggle bus moment right now. So I don't know that I want to like go towards like more journalism, magazine articles or newspaper stuff. I didn't know how viable that was going to be. And I also felt like I didn't have any credentials, right? I didn't study journalism or communications. I don't have any editor contacts. So I thought, what is going to be the easiest writing form to learn? So I found magazines, and then I found, technical white papers, sales copy, and I landed on SEO writing because I thought it had the shortest learning curve and the easiest ability to sell as a service. So that's when I didn't write just for lawyers in the beginning. I didn't know where the demand was. So I wrote about weddings. One of my first clients was a pest control company. I can't tell you how many blogs I wrote about bed bugs. I mean, for real. So it took a while to figure out not a lot of people want to deal with attorneys and law firms. Not a lot of people want to do the research within that. I feel like legal and medical have a lot in common there. Not everyone can do it, wants to do it, is qualified to do it. So it can be really great as a niche to work in.
Sure. And I even tell people that you can always start in something and think that, if bed bugs is your thing, pest control is your thing.
That's right.
Cool. But if you're like, wait, I think I'd rather do something a little bit different. That's what's so cool about it is freelancing. You can switch it. You can do whatever kind of feels right that isn't, bogging down. If you in medical, there's so many different areas too. I mean, it's just like nursing. If you get sick of one area, you can go to a different one and go back if you really wanted to. So then you started your business or your clients, and you started building up clients. What made you say, now I'm ready to grow it even bigger, to either what'd you do first, start coaching or hire on a VA for yourself?
I definitely hired a VA first. I only started coaching, I guess I would say a couple of years ago. When you're a freelance writer, especially if you're a freelance ghostwriter, so your name isn't attached to a lot of the things that you create, you're very much behind the scenes. And I definitely had a thing about putting myself out there and claiming expert status, because I stumbled through a lot of stuff, and I don't claim that I knew what I was doing at the beginning. I was just trying, it was trial by fire. So I was like, I don't have any right to coach anybody. I'm still figuring this out for myself. So I hired a VA first. Actually, the first thing I outsourced was mowing my lawn. I had a business coach at the time, and he was like, why are you mowing your own lawn? And I was like, well, because it's silly to pay someone for something that I could do. And he's like, but you have a huge lawn. That's going to take you 2 hours. And that's 2 hours that you're not growing your business. So that was like a game changer for me when he said that. And I was like, oh, I could pay someone else, and their time to mow it and what I pay them is not the same as what I'd charge a client in those same 2 hours. So definitely outsource it. So I started with just one VA doing some research related tasks for me. And then I really grew it to where I have, we're still a pretty small team of independent contractors, but I work with a number of different, virtual assistants and other freelancers now to help me run my business and handle all the things that happen when you scale.
No, that's great. That's great. And I totally agree with you. And, we always say outsource in your business. No, outsource in your life too. If that means you got to find a babysitter or someone for your little ones just to give you that time. If that means I get my groceries delivered. Love it.
Yes.
Don't even go to the grocery store anymore. And
obsessed.
Yeah, totally obsessed. And then a cleaning person. I have a cleaner. I don't use her once a week or anything. I use her every 3 weeks, but just for that deep cleaning, again, love it. I don't feel spoiled. I don't feel privileged. I'm very blessed to be able to do that, but it also isn't because I'm sitting here eating bonbons. I'm trying to grow my business and things like that. So that's why I tell people, if you can do it, you're going to feel good about it. But make sure you're doing business related stuff while you can. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's the time saving component of it, but there's also the mental space that is freed up by you not having to think about or feel guilty about, oh, I haven't deep cleaned my house. I really should do that. No, you're like, oh, that'll get done. That's just a couple weeks away. I don't even have to think about it anymore. And then I'm sure when the person is done cleaning, you're like, it's like, I can be more focused now because it's off my plate and everything's clean and nice and orderly.
And this might be the nurse in me, but I feel so good that I can help somebody else. The person that I'm paying to do these things, that's their job. So they need money too. So to be able to tip the grocery person too, I'm like, heck yeah, here, have another $10. I'm happy to do that. It makes me feel good too. And it makes me, it just makes the flow of everything so much better, in the household too.
Such a good point.
So then, okay, so you hired the VA person for research and assisting and such. Did you start getting coaching clients because people started emailing you? Did they connect with you on LinkedIn and just start asking you questions?
Yeah, I had some people from my teaching days and from my grad school days. Of course, we were connected on Facebook and LinkedIn and things like that. I had an article in Business Insider, I want to say in 2015. That article went live, and it was about how I left my job as a teacher and built my business. And I had people I knew and then people I didn't know reaching out to me. I actually only built a website because I knew that that article was going live. I had no website before that. So we built this like very temporary website so there would be somewhere for potential traffic from that article to go. And I just kept having people ask me like, what does it look like for what you do? How did you make that happen? Lots of teachers, like how do I get out of my teaching job, or how do I have this as a side hustle? And I did a lot of free coffee chats, free strategy calls. And I was like, I can't do this all by myself. It's too many people. And that's when I thought I really need to have something where it's like a place, a community or a blog or a podcast or something where people can go and find that information, because I can't help every single person by myself.
No, I hear you. And that's why you made a book, and that's why you have a group
Yeah.
Do you have a group on Facebook?
I do. Yeah. I have a group on Facebook. And so that's been a really great way to go from like one to many. So I kind of control like how the content goes out in the group, but it's also a community that builds on itself. So people know that they can trust others in the group, and they'll post questions and concerns. And then it isn't just me answering, it's other people being like, oh yeah, I had a bad client like that. Here's what I did.
Sure.
And that helps a lot.
Of course. So I know we kind of touched on like the outsourcing and such, but do you have the best piece of advice that you can give others about owning their own business or freelance business?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to growing your business, that first piece is recognizing that you can't do it all yourself and that you shouldn't do it all yourself. But knowing what to outsource and how to do that is also really, really important, because you don't just want to say, here's the 10 tasks I hate doing in my business. Let me go find the one person to do all 10, because that person might not be great at all 10. They might be great at 3 or 4, but then you're asking them to do other stuff that they do a lot slower, or that doesn't interest them, or isn't in their wheelhouse. And then you just end up frustrated and you go, okay, well, I guess I do have to do everything myself. So you have to be strategic about what you do pull off of your plate. I mean, I outsourced a lot of my writing work in 2015. I ran my company like an agency, realized I didn't like it. And so when I folded everything back over to say, I'm going to do all my client writing myself, I had to be extremely strategic about everything else that I would outsource beyond client work. So a lot of the parts of my other business, my coaching business, are done by VAs so that I can still, deliver to my coaching clients and also deliver to my freelance writing clients. So you have to be strategic about what you outsource as well.
Can I ask where you found your VAs at?
Yes. So I have lots of great recommendations on that. I like to find VAs through referral, first of all, if you can. If you know what it is you want to outsource, find that person from someone who's already had a positive experience with that freelancer. I have hired successful virtual assistants from Upwork. 2 of my VAs came from Upwork. It's actually funny because I would not recommend this as a method, but my best VA that has worked with me for 6.5 years came from a Craigslist ad of all things. Like, I think he's like the exception to the rule. And then in Facebook groups of entrepreneurs are hanging out, that's a great place. And then you might know her too, because she's kind of in our world, but Gina Horkey of the Horkey Handbook has a free service where she trains VAs. And then for free, as an entrepreneur or business owner, you submit a proposal of what you need, and she will distribute it to her team of trained VAs. And one of the things I love about it is you get very personalized and custom proposals. She teaches them how to write great pitches. And so you get real high quality responses from that as well. And it's totally free.
Awesome. And, she has some great courses on her website too, that we should refer people to as well. Gina's great. I actually think, is that maybe where I connected with you first, was maybe in one of her groups or something like that, because I feel like we all were kind of doing the same thing around the same time. So, and she and I are connected as well. But yes, she's probably has a lot of your audience too, the bigger crowd of freelancers for sure.
And it's just so cool that she'll connect you with people she's trained. So, know, they understand what being a VA is, how to work successfully with a client. And then just, when I hired a couple of years ago, I used her service and then some other things. And it was just interesting. Most of the people that made it onto my short list were from her group, because they made video pitches, right? Like they went above and beyond. They're like, I checked out your website. This is what I'd recommend. And it was just so much more personalized than someone who just commented, on a Facebook group, like, hey, send me a personal message or something. So I definitely recommend that.
Just to like throw into like a little pitching thing for you guys listening, when you do your pitching to clients, make sure you do the research of their business, because if you mention what you love about them and things like that, obviously Laura has found her VAs through that obviously it spoke to you better than like, and I have this great idea, even though they've never maybe even gone on your website. So
yes, a little bit of personalization goes such a long way.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I appreciate you saying is, because I get this question a lot about website. What should I put on my website? Blah, blah, blah. And she just said, you don't need one. You don't need one to really start out. You should have a presence. I mean, you should have a LinkedIn presence, I think, if anything.
Yeah.
But truly, you don't need a website, especially if you're struggling to think about what to even put on your website right now. Maybe you don't need one. Maybe you just need LinkedIn to show who you are, what you do, and then connect people through there.
Yeah.
I get that question a lot.
I do too. And my general strategy is, don't invest in stuff you don't need until you have the revenue or where it makes sense to do it. And so websites can be very expensive. And like you said, if you don't know what to put on it and it's expensive and you haven't had your first couple clients yet, that is not a place I would invest the limited money that you have. Like, definitely build out your LinkedIn profile, start building up those client testimonials and things. And then down the road, that's something that you can invest in. But I think another mistake that people make is, if I build it, they will come. Just because you have a website, if there's no traffic going to it, no one's going to find it. It's not like this magical thing where you start getting leads right away just because you built a website. So I definitely wait a little bit before doing that.
And it's not easy to build a website. I mean, it's you feel so good when you do it, and then, like you said, nobody comes. But you have to have, there's a whole strategy behind that too. So there's strategies to everything, and really starting out, focus on just your client base and making that revenue, making that profit, and then hiring a VA before you even do the website.
And then you can start thinking about, okay, I've got my marketing systems down. It's probably time for me to have at least a simple website. And how can I, invest in that to make that be as effective as possible? But definitely not. I think that's a huge mistake that new freelancers make, and especially writers. Well, if I'm going to showcase my writing samples, I have to have a website. No, you don't. Like, I still share Dropbox and Google Doc links as writing samples with my clients all the time. So don't think
nothing wrong with that.
To have a website. Yeah.
I think too, if I could think of, just some things a VA could do, and this is just like for those that are thinking, well, maybe I could use some help. What I have hired a VA to do is edit, which I think is helpful. And then they do like first round edit, and then I'll look at it again and edit it again. But it gets my eyes away from it and someone else's eyes on it. So I've done it for that. Social media, I think, isn't a bad thing to use a VA for, and blog management, even on your own blog, or podcasting, helps too. How about you? What are some that you think of?
Well, a lot of people, the writers, will always go, well, if I'm writing, like, how can I really leverage a VA if I'm not going to have them do the writing piece? I do this, and then several of my coaching clients do this and have had great success with it. They hire a VA in 2 different places in their process to do research about their clients before they pitch. So you might have a short list of clients, but you need that personalized line for your cold email pitch or for your LinkedIn connection.
I like that.
Or verifying that the person has enough money and, all that kind of stuff. That can be outsourced. Another one that works really well, requires some training, teaching the person to outline your content and blog posts for you. So even for your clients, like maybe your client says, I need a post on like the 5 easiest things to plant in your garden at the beginning of the spring. I could save my time by telling my VA, hey, we want 3 different subheaders. Can you go pull resource links for me to review this? Can you go find high quality links that I'm going to link to within the post itself? Can you pick the picture and download it from our stock photo site and save it the right way? All those little things add up a lot and make
Sure
your
do.
writing process go a lot faster.
No, yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. You said you did hire writers in the past as VA writers in a
Yes.
sense. That had to be tough because a lot of people don't have experience, I guess is the biggest word.
Yeah.
I don't want to say training because I don't think a lot of freelancers have a lot of writing training. I think it's just writing as you go in a sense.
Yeah. And I think one of the challenges that I really had with that, and as experienced writers, so all the writers who are listening to your podcast, whether you're new or you've been at this a while, one of the things that I think we can all leverage more that we think is obvious, but really isn't, is just meeting deadlines and being professional, because that was one reason that I did not love working with other writers. It became very tedious to manage them and turning things in on time, or them following the invoicing instructions. And so
Yes.
for me, that was an eye opener. Like, wait a minute, like there is a, stereotype out there that a lot of writers can be flaky and can be very hit or miss. And I think those of us who are not like that can really leverage that to our advantage. Right. So for me, and the other thing too, is like writers who steal stuff and plagiarize.
Oh yeah.
We all think that that's obvious that you shouldn't do that, but it is mind blowing how many people will try to make that happen. And so you can leverage that to your own benefit and say like, hey, I guarantee that my work is original. It's going to be turned in on time. That puts you ahead of a lot of people who are out there calling themselves freelance writers, but can't really, they want to write and they might be good at it, but handling the business end of things and the client management is not their strength.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Now moving into actually what we want to tell you guys, some things that Laura, is bringing to the table today is some time management hacks to meet those deadlines and to make yourself a faster writer. What do you have for us today?
Well, number one, and this is a big one, if you can implement it into your business, it's a game changer for writers. Stop trying to do every project from beginning to end altogether. I stopped doing this years ago, and it makes a big difference for the coaching clients I've had who have been writers as well. I believe that researching, writing, and editing are 3 different processes, and you should only ask your brain to do one of those at a time. So for example, on Fridays, I will sit down and do all the research parts for all of my clients' work the next week. The title selection, brainstorming ideas, pulling the links that I need to link to, making sure my VA has done that part of things as well. And then that makes it so that when I sit down to write, I am only writing, and I will write for maybe 2 or 3 different clients throughout the course of a day, but I am only writing. I'm not editing myself. I'm not doing the research. And when you ask your brain to only do that one thing, it is a lot easier to focus on that task. And then you do the editing, ideally at least half a day later or a day later, where your brain is fresh and you're like, okay, brain, we're in editing mode. We are proofreading. We are looking for mistakes and opportunities to improve. And it really can speed things up tremendously for writers. I think that's a big one. So that
is huge. And just to comment on that, that is what we call like batching. I did a whole episode on it, and it's so helpful. And this is to say, you guys, if there's a client that wants this like 2-day turnaround, it's not going to be your best work, because the editing process, you have to walk away from the document for a little while just to not look at it and then go back to it, because that's truly, editing is huge.
Yeah.
And a whole different
it takes a lot of time. Yeah, it is. And it's just a different type of task. And so if you're the type of writer where you're writing all day, and I've had several coaching clients like this too, where they're like, I worked on one article for one client today. And I'm like, in 8 hours, like it took 8, because they did it all back to back. They sat down and brainstormed, and then they wrote it, and then they edited it, and then they polished it again, and then they sent it invoice. And it was like, that would have been much less time if it had been spread out where the tasks were batched together properly. So I think that is a big one. Another one that I do is I save my writing and my wrists and my fingers for only writing for clients. So I do a tremendous amount of voice app use. So I coach all of my coaching clients over Voxer so that I do not have to type. I leave voice memos for my VAs all the time. That I even have a transcriptionist that I work with where I will get on, there's a free app called Rev, R-E-V. You don't have to work with their transcriptionist, but you can. If I'm driving or something and I can't type, I will literally like press the record button on that and just brain dump a bunch of thoughts about things that I want to work on or ideas I have for clients, future blog posts I could use in marketing my own business. And then that'll get transcribed and typed up for me. So I try to save my wrists as much as possible. I find that writing all day, every day can really get to you. So leverage your voice whenever you can. Even in responding to emails to people on my team, I will press that microphone button and just be like, yep, this is going to have some typos in it. I don't care. I'm going to use my voice to respond to you as well. So that's another one that saves a lot of time.
Perfect.
And then my final one that I love is working in Pomodoros, so 25 or 50-minute stretches. My favorite tool for that is called Focus at Will. It is music that scientifically helps you focus. As a bonus, they have a timer on it, so you can set it to your 25 or 50-minute work stretch, and it will play this music that helps you stay on task, and then it will ding in your ear to tell you your time is up. That's my cue to get up and walk around. So I found that it's not effective to be like, I'm going to write for 4 hours this morning. Like it doesn't work. And I get sick of it. So I'd rather do like, all right, I'm going to do 3 50-minute stretches. I'm going to use my timer. I'm going to use my music and I'm going to get up in between and walk around or go load the dishwasher or something and then come back. You're much more likely to be focused during those periods. You can
that 5-minute break, you shouldn't be jumping to the email. You should be getting up and getting some oxygen to your brain.
Yeah, that's probably another whole time management episode in and of itself, right? How to deal with emails. That's something, close your email inbox. I uninstalled Gmail from my phone. And so I close that tab. I don't leave that open waiting for the next thing to come in. So checking email only a couple times a day really helps as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a bonus tip.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any specific action tips for writers to scale their businesses?
Yeah, I think that, there's a big argument in the freelance world. Do you niche or do you not niche? I think that niching can really help you scale because you become an expert in one or two things or one or two types of products. So rather than being the writer who says, yeah, I do white papers, I do copywriting, I do resumes and cover letters, I do all the things. Pick the one or two that you really like doing that you can keep up with industry trends and changes on, where you can really become an expert. And it benefits everyone because the more you become that expert, the easier it is to pitch clients as the go-to person, and you know all the things about it, right? Like I can't keep up with all the trends on white papers and sales copy and cover letters and about pages on websites. I can get really, really good at blogs and SEO, and I always can keep on top of the trends and changes that are coming with that. So when I get on a sales call and a client asks me a question like, how long should a blog be? I know the answer to that right away because I follow that one thing. So I think niching with something you like and can do quickly and efficiently, rather than being like, oh, I think this is the one that will make me the most money.
Yes.
So I should do it even though I hate it. Like find something that you can enjoy doing as well. There's kind of like that perfect blend that you can get to with it.
Well, and like you were telling me before we hit record here, you met a coaching client that realized they don't really like writing. They are writing for people, and that's something to figure out. I thought when I took on a client one time that wanted me to write some questions for the NCLEX exam, like practice NCLEX questions, which is the test they use for nurses for become a nurse, to become licensed. And I was like, okay, I could do this. And it's OB, and I love OB. Oh my gosh, I hated it. But it paid well. And I was like, oh, but it pays well. But then I hate it. So money doesn't matter when you hate something. So
no,
I had to give that one up real quick.
It's so funny that you mentioned that too, because my husband gets pitched all the time to write complex questions. And he's like, complex is a dark period in my life. He's
Yes.
like, you could not pay me enough to have to think about those board questions again. So it's funny too. Like you might see stuff where someone like wants you to do it and it pays decently, but it never ends up being worth the pay if you don't like it. So always factor that in. Like, don't think just like, oh, well, there's demand for this one thing, so that's what I should do. If you hate it, you will very quickly start to hate your business. And that's a really hard place to be in. And your clients will feel the impact of that too.
And you might not know if you hate it at first. Give it a chance, but then if you hate it, get out. Get out while you can.
And that goes back to what we were saying, right? Like, don't build a website as the NCLEX writer, and then you have one client, and you're like, wow, I really hate this.
Well, I think it's so nice to hear, like, even your authenticity of just like in 2015, you rolled it over and started again. Like, okay, this isn't it. We got to do something different. I've done it too. You change your business model a little bit, and that's okay.
And you have to,
not perfect.
You have to think about that. Yeah. I mean, I've even done that recently. Last year I was writing so much every single day that I started to feel like, well, it's difficult for me to work on the projects I want to do, like my books, because I'm draining myself during the day. So I switched to, I still have several freelance writing clients, but now I'm also doing public relations and helping authors with their marketing plans for their books. So that variety can also help too. If you start to get sick of a certain thing, think about, how can I take the skills I have? Maybe I do a little bit of editing in addition to writing, or maybe I do some content management or some social media, kind of these related skills where you can balance it out. Because just like you said, you don't know what you like until you do it. And even when you find something you like, you might eventually start to feel like you don't love it as much. So shifting around is important. There's no one answer.
And then once you get good at something, we'll just poke our little friend Gina again, Gina Horkey's little VA services course, and then you can learn how to scale that on top of your freelance writing business, which will only bring you more income to, grow your side business if that's your choice. So, wow, you gave us like so much information that you guys, listeners out there, you're probably gonna have to like rewind and play this again when you got a nice little beverage of choice and a pen and piece of paper, because I feel like you gave us a lot of tips here, and I think our brains together are so good with what we've known already and how to help people do this. And I think I really appreciate it, Laura, so much.
Yeah. And I think like, even if someone's listening to this and you feel overwhelmed, just pick one thing that you're going to implement, and you will feel the positive benefits from that one thing. And like, wow, what if I did slowly build in some of these other tips? So don't feel like you have to change everything about your business tomorrow and implement all these things tomorrow. Just pick one place to start and you can really go from there. But yeah, it's been great to talk to you.
And it kind of makes sense on where you are in your business. So if you're just at that beginning stage, don't be hiring stuff out. Just start small and then grow it. And then grow it. You will. If you're dedicated and you do the things, you have to do the things. You can't just grow overnight.
That's so right.
So Laura, I always ask my guests, what are 3 things that the audience and myself don't know about you?
Well, I have been tap dancing for over 30 years, so I'm pretty good. It's a family tradition. My grandmother was a professional tap dancer and teacher, and my mom has 2 left feet, so it fell to me to carry that on.
I love it.
I paid off my college and graduate school competing in the Virginia preliminaries to Miss America. I know.
She's so pretty.
It was really something. Okay. So that kind of actually tied in with the tap, because that's of course what I did for my talent there. And then the third one is, when I met my husband, I did not love horror films at all, but he has completely changed me with that. And so we actually go to horror and comic book conventions all the time. We've met a lot of really cool, famous people, Tom Hanks, John Cusack, Sigourney Weaver and stuff. So we have a huge autograph collection. Yeah.
Heck yeah, that is so cool. That is so cool. Well, do a little plug again. Where can people find you?
Check out betterbizacademy.com and you can find all my stuff from there. And then my Facebook group is Mastering Your Freelance Life with Laura.
All right, sweet. And what's your book's name again? For this,
how to start your own freelance writing business.
And look in your local library.
I love it.
Apparently you can get it. I'm pretty sure I got it there. So,
awesome.
All right, cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Go check out Laura's podcast too. Go ahead, plug that. What's your podcast name?
Advanced Freelancing.
All right. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much, Laura.
Thanks.
It's live, my first course. I'm so excited to tell you guys that my first course, Plan, Create, Launch, Land, and Grow Your Health Writing Business, is now live. If you head on over to growthlab.thesavvyscribepodcast.com, it's available to purchase right now. Jump on in. Everybody is saying so many wonderful things, and I can't wait for you to be a part of it.
That's a wrap for today's episode of The Savvy Scribe. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Until next time.